Good day, everybody. I'm Justin Joson, a fourth-year IMC student, and with me today is my co-host.
Chianna of Campus N1, a 3-6. Oh, I'm not 3-6 YP.
That's okay.
Let's go.
It's okay.
It's alright.
A 4-6 YP student taking up MA Poleco.
Alright, so in this episode, we'll be talking about studious scholar students and their multi-org journey through their UANP life.
And today, we are joined by none other than our very special guest, Miggy Calilung, a third-year IT student under the School of Sciences and Engineering. And, of course, he's gonna sail us through his experience with not one, not two, but 6 organizations. Is that right? 6?
Yeah, at the moment, yeah.
Okay, cool beans. So guys, org you ready? Because we sure are. And without further ado, come watch, come listen, and come as you are. Because right now, it's all hands on deck.
Okay, so Miggy Calilung, no?
Yes.
Alright,
Yes.
okay, so apart from your name and your course, is there anything else you'd like to say about yourself?
I don't know what is there to say. I'm a workaholic. That's why, go figure, I have 6 orgs right now. Used to be more, but let's not talk about that. Yeah, I like work, but recently I've started hating it because of how much I've been doing. Trying to manage that work-life balance at the moment, and everything's in chaos.
Okay, so like, what do you say na all of your orgs, you see them all as work, like none of them feel like leisure to you? Like, it's because some people join orgs without
that
intention.
is
Yeah. Actually, I think initially people join orgs because it's like, co-curricular, a break from ACADS and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But I think with the volume of orgs or the amount of orgs that I joined last year, I started to just get tired of it. And at the moment, I would say there's some that feels like actual work that I join because I want like the skill, I want to hone certain aspects of myself. But apart from that, some of them are also to feel like leisure, some of them feel like a fun learning experience. A good example would be Joson. I'm also part of it.
Wow.
Okay. So 6 orgs, do you mind listing them down for us?
Okay, let's start from top to bottom. So first one would be Virtus. So I'm the president of Virtus right now. Second would be...
President, guys. I'm honored.
That's not. So the second one would be iLab, the innovation lab. It's actually a new org in the university.
Okay.
I am actually, it's funny because I was president and then I became vice president because I couldn't handle the workload, and now I'm acting president for some reasons. But yeah, so that's iLab, and then I have the Boson. I'm the logistics manager there.
Okay.
I have Forum, the debate org. I have Icarus, the STEAM competition org, and I have futsal management.
Alright, so which would you say was the first org that you joined?
In the university.
Yeah.
The very first org would be Agora actually.
Oh.
Formerly known as Agora, now known as Forum. They're the debate org of the university.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like, what were your reasons for joining your orgs? You don't have to list down every reason for every single
I
org.
think I can list down like for Agora, right?
Okay, so yes, again.
The main reason why I wanted to join Agora is because they're debate, and I assumed that if I did join Agora, I would enhance, so to speak, my public speaking skills. Though debate is vastly different from public speaking, I think it still helped me like organize my thought processes. Because if you know how debate works, you really need to be structured, logical, and with the way you think about things. So I think that really helped me. Albeit coming from no experience as a debater, debating with like college level debate athletes, it's pretty tough for me. But at least I garnered the skill enough to stay in debate and now compete. There's a lot of competition.
It's interesting that you mentioned that you gained something from that, because I think she has some stuff to ask you about.
Honestly, thanks for passing it on to me. I've been itching to ask this question because as you were listing down your organizations, honestly, they're not the very typical UNP organizations wherein like you join it for fun and it's extracurricular. Most of the organizations you're in are like very geared towards academics. Like you said, you're in Virtus, and I think like Icarus.
Icarus, STEAM competition.
So what pushed you to join these organizations? Who hooked you into it?
Actually, that's a good question. So 2 questions there. I'll answer that one first.
Okay.
So who hooked me into joining orgs? There's this amazing guy. We call him the Godfather among our friends.
Okay.
He's Scott Yamson.
Yes.
The Godfather indeed.
He's Scott Yamson, right? A lot of you may know him. He was a pretty big name in the university back
Still
when he
is.
was. Still is, right?
Still is,
Still is a
honestly.
big name. He served as sort of my mentor in when he was still around. So he dragged me into Sabio, the scholars organization,
Okay.
which I was a part of in like my second year or third year in the university. And then he just started like throwing things at me, throwing me into things, and getting like the workaholic in me like activated. And that's why in the last academic year, I was part of so many things, because I figured that since it's the pandemic, everyone has a lot of time, given that, you know, a lot of times also taken out from transportation, being around people, going around places. So you generally have more time than you would in a face-to-face setting. I figured that I could use that time and join as many things I could as possible.
Yeah.
Little did I know that what I was getting myself into. Like I had very little time for myself. I had very little time for other people as well. But at the very least, I could say I gained a lot from everything that I joined.
So, like, this year is the first time UNP is going on campus again after the pandemic. So, I'm sure a lot of freshies or, like, second-year students are wondering, like, what can I gain from org? So, as someone who's been in more than 6 in your 3 years in the university, what do you think UNP students can gain from joining organizations?
Let's see. I think a few things, actually. The first one would be things that you wouldn't, and this is sort of like cliche or typical, things you wouldn't normally learn in a classroom. So you would learn a lot of theoretical things in the classroom, like frameworks, concepts, theories from your different classes. But there's very little room for you to apply those things. That's why I thought that joining Agora, now known as Forum, the Debate Society, was a pretty good opportunity for me to apply the speaking skills that I was learning in like my English subjects, right, in the 26YP, 16YP days. I think that organizations are a good opportunity to really practice those skills that you learn in the classroom, because I think that just limiting yourself to the classroom setting is really limiting the avenues and advantages that you do have in a university itself, right? I think that's first. And second, I think it's generally just better to join organizations for networking sake and getting to know people in general in the university, because I think that's very undervalued when people join the university. Albeit there are some people that join 10 organizations once they get in because they're so enthused about the university life, right? But a lot of people as well find it pretty taxing and don't really see the value, especially when it comes to networking, especially when it comes to knowing people. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to grow up in organizations and you're going to progress in your years in the university, you're going to know a lot of people and you're going to have that connection and that inherent advantage that you would have otherwise not have had if you didn't join these organizations and if you weren't able to establish these connections. So I think those two things. I can stop rambling.
No, it's not
I have a lot to say.
If anything, actually, and I'd love to hear your input on this also, Chi, but I agree, apart from networking, and I don't really see it just as networking. I know, Chi, you're part of PMP, right?
Yeah,
And in organizations, I was a part of one as well. I won't disclose which, but the relationship I built in that organization meant a lot to me. And a lot of the people in that organization encouraged me to pursue things that I normally wouldn't because I was afraid to do them. And so I'm super grateful that I was able to make those connections, and I never would have made them if I never joined an org in the first place. And in organizations, you're put into situations wherein you have to exercise a certain amount of responsibility. So it also teaches you a thing or two in whatever aspect you want to learn. For me, I joined HR because I want to deal with people better and I want to interact with people more. So it's a good experience. I do recommend organizations. Chi?
Yeah, I'm totally on the same page. I myself am a part of multiple organizations. So it really is a double-edged sword. Admittedly, yes, like what you said, Miggy, it does take a lot of time. But jumping off of what you said, how you learn a lot more from organizations, like compared to academics, I also think that organizations instill like what liberal education in UAT instills. So that would be like skills, values, and content, and it's something really fun to practice outside of the classroom. So yeah.
Alright, so before we move on to the next topic, we would like to play a little game with you.
Excited!
Is that okay? Sure. Okay, so you mentioned you had 6 orgs, no?
Yeah.
Now, we want you to rate your orgs from highest to lowest.
It's like one of the typical interviews.
Okay, and after doing so, we'd like you to explain to us why, even just a short explanation of why you ranked them in that way.
Yeah.
Okay, you have 1 minute to do that.
1 minute. Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
let's
before
see.
you rank it though, you can just tell us your 6 words again and then
Oh,
start
shit,
ranking
okay.
it.
Okay.
So Virtus, I love Forum. Forum, Icarus, Shoot, Futsal, and Boson. Right?
Okay.
Okay.
First one would definitely have to be. I think first two on the top would be Virtus and iLab.
Okay.
Yeah, because
Okay.
I'm president of both or executive position of both. So I don't think that if I put one under the other, that would speak to how I prioritize presidency in an organization. Which I think like most people, or so I've been told, when they join an organ or when they're promoted to presidency, they expect to have that as like one of like either the only organization that they have for the year or
Yeah.
one of three or one of a few, right? But at the moment I have more. So I think I would rank them as tied on top spot for that reason. And then under that would have to be Forum, because I've learned so much from like the debating skills, the way you organize your thought, the way I speak.
Yeah.
A lot of it really translated well. Not only that, it also translated to the way I write things, because if you're more organized up here, you're gonna be more organized up here.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. And then I would say that the next would have to be Boson, but not only because of the new grounds that I'm getting myself into. Like I'm a logistics manager in Boson, and I've never been part of like any logistics position, so that's pretty new. It's also like a student publication organization that I've never dipped my toes into. Like before this year, I had very little clue as to what exactly Boson did, aside from publishing articles.
Yeah.
So I think getting myself that first-hand experience and insight into what exactly Boson is pretty valuable. So I'd have to rank that as fourth. And then the last two would be I'm forgetting Icarus and futsal management, right? Okay, futsal management. It has to be futsal management next, because a lot of that is also pretty taxing and pretty fulfilling in a sense that it's sports management. And I think that a lot of what people don't realize is sports management is very different from regular management in that you're managing different teams, you're managing players, and you're talking to a lot of people that are within the same field, which is athletics, sports, and all of that. And I think I learned a lot in terms of like handling people and handling also other people as well who manage other different teams, being a manager of that. And then lastly would be Icarus, because at the moment I don't really have that much time for like competing. So if it's gonna be one competing organization, I think it would still be Forum rather than Icarus. Yeah.
So futsal Icarus, don't feel bad. We asked him to rank it.
Yeah.
We're protecting Miggy.
We'll be attacking after this. Okay.
Okay, so for the second half of this episode, we do understand that to a certain extent, when you take up way too many obligations,
Yes.
you're gonna have to sacrifice certain things. Okay, maybe your academic or your personal life more so, but then again, I doubt that you're sacrificing your academic life. Okay, so with that being said, having both academic and org workload, do you think that these prevent or restrict you from working on your hobbies or any personal interests that you might have?
Well, that's a good question. Yes, it restricts me a lot. So much so that I don't have time for hobbies or personal things. Which is why I really don't like encourage people to join organizations past what they're capable of, even though you think that like, you're going to have like more learning experience. Because at the end of the day, it's like diminishing marginal returns. Like even if you're going to learn all of these things within that time span of a year, you're still going to be sacrificing things like your mental health, your personal health, your personal hobbies, personal interests, and a lot of that is part of who you are. And if you don't have time for that, I think at the end of the day, you're sacrificing your development as a person. Oh, holistic development.
Wow.
You caught me off guard at diminishing marginal returns.
Yeah,
I'm like, wait a minute.
What does this mean?
English, me no comprehendo.
I love how you brought that up, because I think it's a great reminder for students as well. Like it varies the threshold that one can have when like joining organizations. It varies. Some people they can only handle 3. Others I know can handle like 7.
Some people are psychopaths and can handle like a dozen.
Yeah, exactly.
True.
Crazy.
And I love how you specified na you don't encourage them to take orgs beyond their capacity, because it's still something you'd recommend. It's just not as many as you're taking right now.
Yeah. Well, I know my capacity, but yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm really curious. You said like like more often than not, it takes away time from you doing your hobbies. But there are a lot of people who join organizations precisely because it's their hobby. What can you say about that?
I think that's just a me thing. Yeah, it's just a me thing. Like,
Yeah.
That's true.
the way I set myself to joining organizations before I joined them, or the way I oriented my mind, is that I joined them to build myself as a student, as a person in the world, in society. You know, you have to build character, you need to build all these skills, because at the end of the day, like people say, like professors say, and everyone says, the school is supposed to prepare you for the real world, for the
Yeah.
corporate setting. And what I think is that, to put it in like a one-liner, I'll don't take this too literally, but I'll suffer now in these years in the university to later benefit like everything that it is that I have reaped once I've graduated, given all the skills that I've garnered, to be happy later on. So suffer now, be happy later is a good one-liner. Again, that's just a me thing. I know other people, like you said, Chianna, join organizations as like a form of leisure, a form of a hobby, a personal interest, like VR, acting, music, and all of that. And I have nothing against that. I think it's better to join organizations for that reason, because academics can be pretty taxing, and at the end of the day, if you're not able to perform as well in academics, then what's the point of going to school and being a student? If you have that setback, that safety net of, oh, I have an organization that I am a part of and I can rest and take a break and then move on with academics later on because I've rested in these organizations. I think it's people would value organizations even more if they see it in that light. But yeah.
What? Go ahead.
Okay, and I mean that's true. I appreciate you mentioned that it's a me thing because it really does vary per person.
Yeah.
For the reasons of joining an organization. For some, you said it's because it's their hobby. For some, it's because they want to pursue certain skills that they already want. And for some, it's because there's a lack of hobby or interest in their life.
Right.
Great.
And
example.
so you join an organization because you know what, maybe this is something that I can be interested in. Maybe it's something
Exploring.
I can pursue or I can
Yeah.
explore. And so it really is a me thing, it's a per person thing. And I hope that regardless of what organization anyone joins, they find a certain fulfillment to it or a certain
Definitely.
that it resonates with them. You know what? Maybe it's not an interest, but I know it's something I appreciate because it's helping me grow in character and in my skills.
Yeah. Miggy, what do you think like a misconception people have about students who are in multiple orgs? Most especially scholars, yeah. We're in a lot of orgs.
That's a good question. I think the most apparent misconception that people would have with those kinds of people who are like very into orgs, who like work and who like punishing themselves by working. I'm sorry, that's just punishing. I'm joking. But yeah, people are very into orgs. I think the most apparent misconception is that they're this person who people put up on a pedestal, like there's this super competent, very skilled person, and who's pretty hard to approach and to like connect with as a person. But the reason why I say that's a misconception is because people find those kinds of people scary, intimidating, and unapproachable at times. Except maybe for people like you, like you're pretty approachable, even though you have like, so many organizations.
Not gonna lie, that's
yeah.
first.
Yeah, but, that's what I'm saying is that these people tend to be put at a standard where that people don't see reachable as like connecting with other people and finding I don't know how to put it, but yeah, they find them intimidating and unapproachable. But the more I meet people and organizations, the more I've gone through them and seen these kinds of people who are like really into organizations, have tons of different hobbies, despite being in all of these organizations. They're just as human as everyone else. They're not like psychopaths who are just focused on work. Well, admittedly, I have met those kinds of people who are just laser.
So they
focused on work.
exist.
They exist.
Oh,
But that's one of the most apparent misconceptions. Yeah, I would say. Another misconception would be, they're competent in all areas because they have all of these different organizations. I've met a lot of people who are part of like 6-10 organizations, but have like sorely lacking skills and capabilities, and say like different like social skills or writing skills. It's just because you're a part of a lot of things doesn't mean that you've covered everything to the extent that you don't need like further development in other areas.
Can I add to the first misconception?
Yeah.
And I think that also goes beyond organizations only when people think that, okay, this person's in many orgs, they seem very kept together. They're probably okay, they're doing everything, they're just the perfect people. No, and I think that's something that people have to understand, especially like new kids or like freshies.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
Trust me, even the most kept together person you know probably breaks down every now and then because they're struggling to keep it all together. Yeah, they also make just as much an effort as you do. That's why it was important for him to say na they're also human.
Yeah.
They're doing what they can, but they're also struggling. And I think sometimes putting them on that pedestal also pressures them to keep up that image. But really, they're just as human as anyone is in this university. So I don't think people should have that misconception. I think they should know that even the most kept together people are also struggling behind the scenes, no matter what it is they're doing.
Yeah.
And I think we all have like, we're good at something somewhere.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean if someone like has more orgs than you, like they're immediately better than you.
Exactly.
Again, I love
That's
how you
true.
said where it's like, oh yeah, if you keep putting them up to a pedestal, they're gonna feel like extra pressure.
Yeah.
And I definitely know a lot of people who feels that way, wherein it's like a burden on their shoulders, like I have to be like this, I have to be like that. But at the end of the day, we're all human. It's gonna be fine. You know what? I'm super curious. I know like you've been in a lot of organizations, and I'm really just asking this out of curiosity. Is there any one org in UANP that you want to join or you wish you joined?
Despite having this many already.
Yeah, hypothetically speaking, if you had the time.
Yeah, that's a good question because there's I think there are two.
Wow, you came prepared.
No, this is something I've also thought about. Like
Okay.
when I reflected back on my last year, the amount of organizations that I've joined,
Uh-huh.
I thought like, is there anything else that I want to do despite this many organizations that I'm in? And I thought back to myself and realized that there are actually two. One of them I tried getting in but failed miserably.
Oh no!
So that's one of the few
Good effort,
organizations.
You
good
want to
effort.
drop the name?
Yeah, I will have to because I did want to join at the time. That organization being JNS. So
JNS. Okay,
for
JNS.
context, JNS. The reason why I was bad at that interview is because I lacked sleep and I didn't prepare. But that's my fault.
Just
But yeah,
Wait for the
JNS. So
JNS office.
hopefully you guys are doing well. So that's one. But the second one is the one that I wanted to join more. Is PMT. I wanted to join PMT because it seemed like a lot of the work that they've done is mirrors the corporate setting pretty well in terms of project management because it's a project management organization, right? It's in the name of the organization, and I think that joining PMT early, or if I would have joined it early, would have established pretty good fundamental skills in project management, which I could have used moving forward, going into all of these organizations. And I think that in learning to develop yourself as a person, it's very important to establish that base level or fundamental level of skills and the capacity that just increases your capacity to do more and be more than belong. Be more as a person and as a student. So increased capacity would therefore mean that you can do more and join more organizations, which is something that I wasn't really. It wasn't a mindset that I had initially going into all these organizations, which is one of the mistakes that I had initially. But
So
PMT
maybe I have an offer for you. Do you want to be part of PMT? Just kidding.
I think I'm too old for that.
You know, just for some spice, okay? And you don't have to answer.
Yeah.
Let's say you can only have 6 orgs, okay? And you want to pursue those 2. Would you drop any? Which 2 orgs would you drop if you were to
Great
join
question.
JNS and PMT?
That's a great question. I think I would drop.
Oh. I didn't expect. I was thinking that. I love to see it. Okay.
Okay, I have my 2 cents on this. First one would be futsal management.
Sorry, futsal.
Well,
If you're
I'm not
watching.
sorry. I'm joking.
Really
The reason why is
Cut the cameras.
one is it's pretty taxing in terms of handling all these different like managerial things. Especially considering that when I joined futsal management as the manager, I had to build everything from ground up because futsal management was pretty dormant over the pandemic because it's an athletic like management organization or team, and sports orgs were like dead over the pandemic. So building everything from ground up, I think taught me a lot, and I think at this point I've learned all that I can. So that's why I want to drop it and replace it with one of the two. Second would be, what would have to be the second one in the priority list, or the lowest one, just Icarus. I'm sorry, James. But I think if I were to have at least one competition, it would have to be Forum over Icarus, like I said earlier. And I think I've done a lot already in Icarus, and I would rather experience something newer or more novel at this point.
Yeah. Thank you. We appreciate you for answering.
Yeah.
Why
I
did
wasn't
you expect me not to?
Yeah.
I have answers.
Playing it safe.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, do you have anything to add?
No, but I guess to wrap it up, I'm curious if you could leave our viewers
Yeah.
or listeners with one piece of advice with all of the experience you've had, what would it be?
Okay. One piece of advice. Okay. I think I have one. One piece of advice I would leave to people watching this would be, when getting yourself into organizations, since that's our topic, I'll focus my advice on that. When getting yourself into organizations, don't overestimate your capability to perform in organizations or in organizations. So don't think that you can join 10 different orgs because you like these 10 different things and you're interested in all of these 10 different things. You need to, what's most important when getting yourself into them is knowing what you're capable of, because at the end of the day, if you overestimate your capacity, you're going to be sacrificing a lot. Like I said, I sacrificed my personal life, my hobbies, my interests, and I think sacrificing that isn't worth the skills that you will develop, because you're just going to end up at a state where you're going to be tired of the things that you're doing and you won't be able to perform as well moving forward. And that's also going to sacrifice the way you're going to be looking at things, moving past your earlier years in the university. And I think that wouldn't really bode well for you as a student and as a member of any organization. And like Scott, my mentor, would always tell me, it's always better to quote unquote die. We use this term die in like organizations and take a break and reset your mental health, your physical, emotional health, than to force it and later on be extremely exhausted for the rest of your stay in the university. Because if you do that, then you're sacrificing a lot of time that you could have otherwise used to develop yourself. So it's a sort of opportunity cost in that sense when you tax yourself too much and sacrifice a lot of things that you could have got.
Alright, thanks, Miggy. So any final remarks from Chi?
None for me.
None?
Thank
Alright,
you.
so once again, I've been Justin Joson.
And I've been Chianna.
This is our guest, Miggy Calilung. This has been On Deck. We hope that you've enjoyed and we look forward to seeing you on the next one.
Bye, guys!
And we're good. Nice one.